Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Friday night Smackdown review. And folks, we see ourselves in kind of a contrast with this Smackdown. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was a solid go-home show before Battleground this Sunday. Ashton, you felt quite differently about this show, so tell me what's going on, man.
Oh, man. I was honestly shocked when you told me that you actually enjoyed this show. And it's not really something where and I feel like I say this far too often, but with this SmackDown, it's slightly more on the negative side. A lot of the time, what I will say about SmackDown is, oh, it didn't do anything too horrible, nothing too offensive. It just wasn't anything great. This SmackDown just felt, I don't even know how to describe it. I honestly, I felt like this SmackDown was just trying to take everything bad that happened on Raw, everything that you and I complained about on Raw, and shove all of that into a 2-hour show with less good content.
So you felt like they almost exacerbated everything bad on Raw, and it was even worse because in 2 hours you're going to have even less good content than that, so it just makes it a really unpleasurable viewing experience.
Yeah, I mean, think about it this way. What were our biggest problems with Raw? It was repetitive, it was formulaic, they shilled the network too hard, and they went to the extent of having an in-programming commercial. Literally every single one of those things happened here, to probably the same degree as Raw, but the difference is we had one less hour of original content.
That is true. I mean, they are really heavily promoting the network. They're doing a lot of the same things. I don't know. For me, I felt like this is a more enjoyable show than Raw. I felt Raw was the worst show this week as far as the three main shows that you and I cover on TWitWoW.
And I would say that this SmackDown was the worst show, with Raw coming in at a close second.
Wow. Yeah, I have to disagree there. Because, see, here's the thing. Even though SmackDown was missing that extra hour of content, I really don't feel like Raw did much with that extra hour of content. So, if anything, it only prolonged the pain rather than ended it. And I really didn't even feel much pain with this SmackDown. So, I guess with that said, let's get right into our first segment, Heat of the Night. And as you can imagine with my train of thought, I really don't have any heats of the night tonight. What I'm more curious about is if you do.
Well, I know that I do have heats of the night, but I'm trying to think of an effective way of articulating and really projecting exactly what my problems with this show are. And it's difficult because the only thing that I can genuinely articulate right now is that the show put me in a bad mood. And it's really difficult to pick and choose exactly what about the show put me in the bad mood in the first place. So the one thing that I will absolutely, undoubtedly say is repetitiveness. We got another segment between Swagger and Rusev that led to absolutely nothing, that ended up being just another, and you know, there's an old phrase where they say it's just a dick waving contest. And that's pretty much what this is, except that it's not dicks, it's flags. And it's obnoxious, and you said a long time ago, and you've been saying ever since then, that you're shocked that this kind of angle is working in 2014.
Right.
And I'm getting to the point that I'm not so much shocked as I am disappointed, because seriously, America, just grow up, man. Seriously. Like, these people get so into it and so behind this guy who is supposed to be representing their country, whereas in my opinion, I don't understand what the big deal is. If somebody wants to insult America, I'm not going to get all up and offended and angry about it, because frankly, I see America for what it is. And I'm not going to go into some super anti-American rant right now, but at the end of the day, if you are seriously that patriotic that you're going to get angry when somebody from another country insults yours, you definitely need to look at your priorities and do some figuring of things out, because they're clearly not in the proper order. And again, with the repetitiveness, we got the exact same video package that they show on every single show for AJ versus Paige. And the reason that I have a problem with this isn't that we're getting highlighting on a Divas match. I love that. What I have a problem with here is that they're using the exact same video package, and it's because the only, and I do mean the only storyline progression that we've gotten in this is now all of a sudden they're best friends. That's literally it. And you can't make a video package for that.
No, you cannot. Well, I'll go through point by point. One, with your whole Rusev Swagger complaints, I find it so funny that you're saying this because before we recorded, I came across a quote that I love from Albert Einstein. He said, "Nationalism is an infantile disease. It is the measles of mankind." And that's kind of the vibe I get here. Because, see, my biggest problem, I think, with this angle is that Lana seems to be the far more articulate one and the more educated one of the two.
See, and the irony here is that my biggest problem with this is that they're painting the foreigners as these super cartoonish, borderline straw man, just caricatures of ignorant anti-Americans. Like, Lana's best rebuttal is, "You're stupid, America!" Like, seriously, give them something to work with. I mean, what they did on Monday was brilliant, but now tonight, all Lana had to say was, "You're stupid," and shut up. It's like a freaking, she's reverted back to her 13-year-old girl state. And I don't blame her, I blame the WWE for not giving her anything to work with.
It's really disappointing because I wish Lana, when in confrontation with others, would bring out the content that she normally does in her standalone promos. You know, when she's making it socially and politically relevant, like how Russia gave asylum to Snowden and we've wanted to, you know, get him and do whatever under, I guess, quote-unquote due process. And I thought that was great stuff because that's very relevant. That's a hot-button issue. And I feel like both sides should have been doing that. But instead, you go to the same – I mean, you pander with the same kind of phrases and everything else. You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing rich or substantive. It's the same tired old lines that we've heard in every Un-American feud before this and we'll probably hear in every Un-American feud after it. And I really felt like these guys had a chance to really raise the bar. So while I'm still enjoying the work between the actual performers, you know, Swagger, Rusev, and Zeb and Lana to a degree, you know, they're not reaching that echelon, that plateau that I thought they could reach with something like this, because I was really enjoying Lana's work early on, and I think Zeb, when you give him good material, can really do something worthwhile. But it's just been, again, those same tired old lines, so I can understand that gripe. As far as Paige AJ, I'm still cool with it because, again, I'm still sensing something like the Christian Orton rivalry. They have this really respectful clinic at Battleground. AJ wins again, then Paige snaps because she knows she can beat AJ, but now she has to, I guess, to get more desperate to do it. Don't really know if I'm necessarily a fan of that angle, but I want to see how it plays out. So I still really have no gripes. But yeah, let's move it along just a little bit further. I can see where you're coming from with that as well.
And sticking with the whole repetitive line, and John, I know that you're going to disagree with me here too. Goldust and Stardust is getting old already. They do the exact same thing on every show. You see Stardust, he says something random that makes almost too much sense to even make sense, that's supposed to sound profound that isn't really. And then Goldust comes in, tries to finish, gets dust blown in his face. They make their respective noises, and then Cody Rhodes says Stardust, and that's it. It was cool at first because everything was different, because I enjoy the theme, because Cody Rhodes wearing makeup is something that we haven't seen before, and because he has a unique in-ring moveset. But guess what? We haven't seen them frickin' wrestle in how long now? And it seems like it's gotten to the point that they do compete less than once a week. But the problem is we're seeing them so freaking often, and it just so happens to be the same basic gist of what they're doing in every single one of these vignettes. Like I said, it's getting old.
Actually, you really won't get much contention from me, particularly as it pertains to the latter half of your statement. I think the huge problem that Goldust and Stardust are facing is a lack of in-ring time. When is the last time we saw these guys compete? I honestly can't even remember. And granted, I don't have the best short-term memory in the world, but, these guys should be in the ring on a consistent or at least semi-consistent basis, because these segments alone are not going to cut it. It shouldn't just be the antics they do with each other. I think what makes these characters potentially worthwhile are the antics they pull on their opponents, whether it be in the confines of a feud and building a feud or an actual match. Those are the antics we want to see. That's why I enjoyed when Goldust faced Curtis Axel some time back, and Stardust was doing all these things like getting up on the security barricade and like leading the fans in some kind of wave, or posing on the announce table and blowing his Stardust in Ryback's face. Things like that I think make the character seem fun and engaging, but these same interactions with each other, I mean, you're a team, you shouldn't be trying to figure each other out. That shouldn't be the big thing here. You should be either going after the tag titles or freaking somebody else out, so I can understand where you're coming from, definitely. They need to change it up, because I love these guys, but it's starting to get a little tired, so.
Yeah, so there you go, and that'll be my first heat of the night, just repetitive news overall. I'll kind of group all of that into one. And then my second heat of the night, JBL on commentary. I've had this as a heat of the night before, and then it went away, and then it came back, and then it went away, and now it's back. Namely, specifically, JBL on commentary as it pertains to the Nikki Bella storyline. JBL is supposed to be like this, I guess you could call him like a propaganda, like a vehicle for propaganda for the Authority. He's supposed to kind of do everything in his power to make the Authority look like the good guys in every situation. And I like that. I do. But my problem is when it gets to the point that he is getting so cartoonish and is becoming so much of a caricature of himself that what he's saying goes from anti-conspiracy theorists to just flat out illogical. When Michael Cole makes a valid point talking about how Stephanie doesn't need to put Nikki Bella in these situations, and the only thing JBL has to retort is, well, her sister left her, Stephanie had to find something to do. Really? She couldn't just put Nikki in a singles match because now her sister's not around? She has to pretend like she still thinks that Brie is still around when everybody in their right mind knows she isn't? It's getting to the point that it's going from really good heel heat to over-the-top ridiculous. I don't even want to hear it anymore.
I think JBL's problem, and now I want to just qualify for everybody, I have not watched much of guys like Bobby the Brain Heenan or the really old school heel commentators, but I have watched some clips, and what I've noticed is they always had the right amount of restraint. And I feel like JBL tries to get way too much heat, like way too often. Like every second of him talking is with the purpose of garnering some kind of heat. And I get it, he's a heel, but I think at the same time you've got to.
Unless it's got to do with John Cena, then he loves baby faces all of a sudden.
Right. I think problem one is the consistency, because you mentioned that there, and I even noticed that with heel Michael Cole. It's like John Cena cannot be this object of negativity. And two, I think heels are so much better, not just in the commentary arena, but even in the in-ring arena, when they really pick their spots. When JBL can maybe be restrained for a matchup, and that maybe he sees an act that's so anti-authority, then he could say, oh, this is ridiculous. The Authority signs their paychecks. What is this, Michael? And you see something like that. I feel like he tries to ham it up, I think, way too often, tries way too hard to be the bad guy consistently every second of every show that he's on.
Yeah.
Pull it back a bit. Pick your spots. Restrain yourself. I think that's what makes it more worthwhile. But, yeah, he's all over the place, and I agree with you. It gets to that Matt Striker level of annoying where it's like, we know you have a certain objective you want to achieve, but try and get there a little bit more gradually and not rush the process.
Get a tact job.
Exactly.
So, yeah, those are my two heats of the night tonight.